Hello, Gaz Williams here for Sonic Lab, and today we're looking at the brand new update for Cubase, Cubase 8.5. Perhaps I should actually say Cubase Pro 8.5 because that new Pro thing brought in version 8 is meant to stipulate that we're meant to take Cubase that bit more seriously now. And really this new update is very much about workflow and very much about trying to enhance using Cubase, and there's a number of features which are they maybe not very sort of sexy features if you could call them that, but they are certainly features which are meant to enhance its professional use. Now some of those things include the new Vst Transit. If we look at the screen, I'll show you very briefly what that is. So Vst Transit is Steinberg's cloud collaboration system, which is, we've seen it a little bit like with Splice and Gobbler 2. It allows you to link up with people around the world and share your project, share the assets, work on the same song essentially, and has some nifty functions built in which enable you to sort of go through various versions. But I should mention at the moment there is only 500 megabytes of storage and 1 gigabyte of download, so it's not really enough to test it out professionally. What's going to happen though is Steinberg are going to release premium accounts for this over the next month or so. So I think later on this may start to become more useful. Also, on this similar sort of tip, there's a new thing as well, which is called Profile Manager. Profile Manager allows you to store all your preferences, all your key commands, all your own personalizations of working with Cubase. You can save that onto like a USB thumb drive, so when you go around to your mate's house or whatever it is, another studio, in it goes, you can read it, and there you are, you're on your Cubase preferences exactly as you want them. Okay, not the most interesting, but some people will probably jump out of their chair with joy at that. So workflow enhancements is probably the main thing with this 8.5 update. And these workflow enhancements are many and throughout the whole program really. And they're quite small little things, but we'll just go on a little whistle-stop tour and just try and spot a few of them. Again, not the most exciting things, but if you're a regular Cubase user, I'm sure you'll appreciate some of these. Okay, when we look at the screen now, one thing is we get a better visual indication with the mouse indicator. When I mouse up to the ruler, it changes to this kind of 4-arrow thing. And that means that when the icon is like that, then we can zoom and we can move around a project, and we can see that that icon is facility that was there before, but that icon wasn't there. And it's just a nice little indicator that you know that you've got control of like the horizontal zoom. Another nice little thing is at the top now, when the mouse is in the kind of the loop section, the left and right locate section, we see this bar light up to indicate. So I can make a selection and there's our loop location. But if I now click in it, I can actually enable and disable the loop just by clicking within it. Again, small little thing. Also, whilst we're talking about location, if I bring up the old trusty transport bar, this has had a redesign and there's a lot of nice little features on this now.
Can you zoom in on that?
Yep. Let's zoom in on here and we'll have a look at this. We can see that this has got a nicer, smarter look. But wait, where's the jog and shuttle wheel? Sadly, it's gone. But what we have got now is we've got a separate punch in and punch out. Now this punch in and punch out are like separate from the loop. Previously, punch was tied to the loop, but now we can see if we look in our loop brace, there's a red punch in and punch out marker. So we could be looping a section and just punch in for just the section that we want. So there's these new little pop-up ribbons where if I sweep over to the right, for instance, I can open and close this section of the screen. This little ribbon has appeared. And what that does, again, I can find it up at the top there, which allows us to open up, see the overview line, I can close things. If I come down the bottom, I can open up the chord pad. More of this later with the chord pad. We have to watch out though, because if I've had to shrink my dock a little bit to make space for it to to be able to see it there. But over on the left-hand side, we see it again for the inspector. And if we go into our mixing desk, we get the same thing. Here, I can open and close the channel selector. Over here, I can open and close the control room meter. So in the past, we used to have to go up to the top here to this little, almost anonymous little button to go into it and to change things. So that's maybe a speedier way of adjusting your real space, especially useful if you're working on a smaller, maybe laptop screen. Okay, again, these are little things, but they do amount to something. Now, long-time Cubase users, I'm sure, will be a little bit frustrated. Say we've got 100 tracks in our projects, just add 100 tracks. And now, if we wanted to make a group track, and I wanted to say, group a bunch of tracks together, so I'm just going to use this shortcut here, where I go add group channel to selected. That in the past, if we created a group channel, it would create it right at the end of the track list. And like if you wanted to maybe have that group channel next to your tracks, then you'd have to go and get it. Now at least it gives us this option. Create outside folder means it'll create it outside of the group channel folder, which in this case, I'll add the track, and that has put the track right next to the tracks here, rather than at the bottom, which is pretty cool. But in the case of maybe adding effects tracks, we can go add tracks here. Now effects channels, we probably want our effects channels to be in one place, i.e. at the end. So I'll add 4 effects channels. And now here we can see effects channels create inside folder, which I'm going to go okay. And now if we scroll right down to the bottom, there they are in their effects channel. So again, a small thing, but being able to choose where those tracks go, either next to the selected track or back in the folder, giving you the option is quite a nice thing. I certainly appreciated that one. Now, Midi has seen lots of small beneficial improvements, including the ability now with a double click to be able to mod a note with a single click. Now I'll have to demonstrate this. Let's go inside our Midi editor. Now, if we double click, we can add notes. That's something we've been able to do for a while. But now when we double click and I keep hold on to I haven't let go of the second click, look, I can change the length of it. Now, also, if I hold down Command, I can change and move up and down. I can change the velocity as well as the length. Hold down Alt and I can change the pitch. Hold down Shift, I can change the position. So it means that single clicks, you can add these things, change the velocity, change the position, change the length, and change the position before releasing the click. So nice little thing, quite simple, but again, quite appreciated. This one's a good one. Right, I'm going to bring in an instance of Groove Agent now, and there's a nice drum editing. Let's just bring in. Well, let's do this with this thing here. We'll go into the racks. I'm going to go into my media bay. Oh, and now we've got a graphical look of things. So if I look at instruments, Groove Agent. Drag, no, I can't drag and drop. I have to go in here. And this is the media bay after all. A little bit frustrating that is, but right, let's bring in a drum machine with some drum sounds loaded in. Okay, and okay, I'm going to create a part. Now, if I turn on the drum map, I'm going to just set up and go into the part. This is our typical thing. We've got the little diamonds. But now, if I click on the diamonds, I can make them display more, which actually the diamonds don't show length, but now this can show note lengths, which, you might think, but these are drums, they only need to represent single hits. Well, it just makes it more flexible. Now, we've also, as we saw with Cubase, earlier versions of Cubase, they introduced these things called visibility agents. Well, this is now extended to the drum editor. And that's over here, this little house here. And now we can go, I only want to see drum sounds with events. This is a bit like Ableton Live Fold track, where it just gets rid of all the other tracks that haven't got anything on. And it only shows you what you've got. So in this case, I've only got one track. But we can go show all sounds. What is quite useful, when I do that, the little house icon lights up orange to indicate that some tracks maybe aren't visible. And there's also, I can go just show drum sounds in use by instrument. So obviously these things are very much of interest to existing Cubase users. And let's think what else we've got. We've got better automation handling now, where we can actually, if we wrote in some automation. Now, just by writing in automation, instantly enabled read. Previously, you couldn't write automation in until you went and switched it on to read automation. So again, a small but welcome little adjustment. And then with our automation, I can select automation. And look, as I move that automation, it sort of can overwrite. Let's just get in tight so we can see what's going on here. I can just select that automation and see how I can just move it through existing automation. And again, here's another neat little thing. If we wanted to duplicate an event, looking on the screen, there's a new little dot that's appeared. And when I just click on that dot, I can just pull out however many repeats of a part. Okay. Now, here's a nice facility. We can go to File, and in the Import menu, we've gained Import from Tracks from Project. So if I select that, what this does is, so I pick a project, an existing project, and rather than opening the whole project and having to drag and drop or copy things from there, it just now gives us a list. So say this project now, I just wanted the, the trumpet track, for instance. Select None, select the track I want, the trumpet track, click OK. And what it'll do is, there we are, down the bottom here, it's brought in the track, and it'll be time-stamped to where it was in the original track as well. So brilliant way of maybe going back to an older song, grabbing, bits that you've deleted maybe from, your latest version, but rather than having to open the whole project and, select the parts, being able to do it that way, and that would work as a batch import as well. So you could bring in a whole multi-track from one drum, from one project into another one, just by simply selecting the tracks. So pretty cool little feature, I think. Now, long-term Cubase users will jump out of their chairs with glee about this one. Right, I want to set a tempo. I get my little tempo marker up, and lo and behold, I can change the tempo. Previously, changing the tempo from the beginning would involve having to disable the tempo track or go into the tempo track and set the tempo there. Now, just simply, I can just instantly just set the tempo. Little thing, but wow, I'm pleased. That's something I think we've been asking Steinberg for years for, so it's really great to see that in there now. Okay, I'm just going to open up a project, a song, and this is going to showcase something that's one of the less kind of trumpeted features of 8.5, but I think it's one of the best things in there. And that's the inclusion of the latest elastic time stretching pitch shifting algorithms. It sounds amazing. Now, a good example is here. So I've got a song. Let's play a little bit of the song first. This is a Bristol band called Matuki. I play bass in. 124 BPM. Okay, so let's see what happens. Let's take it down to about 100 BPM. Sounds pretty good. Let's take it down even further. Take it down to about 76. Why not take it down to 2 BPM? It's amazing hearing all that texture. Ordinarily, this would just be unusable. And this is, of course, across a big, what is it, probably 30, 40 track, multi-track project in real time. Maybe not quite as funky down there. 124. Hey! Okay, so you can see, I think that is amazing. That's got some real great potential. But I mean, you know, obviously there's the kind of wilder creative sound exploration part of it. But also, I mean, if you are just going to be making smaller tempo adjustments, then you're going to get that at a much higher quality than we've experienced before. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at the new Chord Pad Sections. So here's a project with a few tracks inserted onto there, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the chord pad by coming down here, clicking on the ribbon at the bottom. And now, so we've seen chord pads, they got introduced in about Cubase 8, I think, actually. And these chord pads are, they're really quite good fun because they'll play just whole block chord. So now I just go and hit the pads. And it'll play block chords. And what the new feature in Cubase 8.5 is a thing called Sections. And what Sections does is it allows you to actually voice the individual notes of the chords. So what we do is we come down here, and I'm just going to zoom in. Well, here where it says plain chords, we're just going to click the little drop down menu, and I'm going to choose Sections. Okay. So now what's happened is, if we look, some orange keys now has set the range. These 4 keys, which relate to the top 4 white keys on my little keyboard here. So now, if I hit a chord, then hitting all 4 is the same as I was when I was hitting the pad, but it means that I can go. It plays like the arpeggio of the chord. So it makes the chord pads a lot more kind of musical. You can kind of interact with them maybe a bit more musically than just simply triggering the chords. Now, if I was to put the whole project into record, including inserting a chord track which is armed and ready to record, then I can record the output. Let's put the click on and let's drop it into record. Drop into record, click track on, and we go. So you can see that it's not just to bluff people that you can play the piano, but I think it's actually a very good songwriting tool to explore chords and to kind of look at different chord progressions. And just, as I say, before you just only had the ability just to trigger chords, now to be able to trigger them and arpeggiate them at the same time is a definite welcome improvement. And finally, the last thing we're going to look at is Retrolog 2. So if I open that up, Retrolog has been in Cubase for a few generations. So Retrolog 2 is the new edition that's in 8.5. But Retrolog 2, I should mention, is also available as a standalone instrument for use in other DAWs. Retrolog is ostensibly an analog modeling synthesizer, but it is actually really cool because it's got a nice, thick, dirty quality. Let's have a listen. Bit of drive on there. And that's just a single oscillator, but it's got a nice, thick analog quality to it. What's new in Retrolog 2 is now we've actually got a 3rd oscillator as opposed to the 2 oscillators before. We've also got a pretty full-featured arpeggiator step sequencer page, and there's new effects. There's a big suite of effects, including a new resonator. So it's a pretty comprehensive analog synth modeler, actually, that's well worth investigating. Sometimes we kind of don't look at the kind of built-in synths. We just go straight for our premium VSTs, etc. But Retrolog is certainly worth having a good look at, because it is a pretty cool synth. So that about wraps up our look at Cubase 8.5 today. I think we can summarize it in thinking that it's, it's not a huge load of new content with this one. It's more about refinement and small new workflow enhancements, which I think will be welcomed by long-term Cubase users. This is about an evolution, I suppose, rather than revolution. But anyway, I mean, I've been a Cubase user since like 1991, so I've really enjoyed seeing how this piece of software has expanded to the behemoth that it is today. And I certainly appreciate some of those small workflow enhancements. Right, so Cubase 8.5 is available now, and the pricing strategy really does depend on what version of Cubase you already got. If we have a little look at the screen here, we can see that if you're upgrading from version 8, then it's a £36 update. So that's not too bad. From 7.5, £110. From 7, £147. 6, £184. 221 if we go back to Cubase 4, and so forth. So depending on what you've got, the price may differ. For an incremental update from Cubase 8 to 8.5 at £36, I would say it's worth it. There's a number of very useful enhancements. Anyway, I'm Gaz Williams. Thanks very much for watching. This has been Sonic Lab. Bye-bye.